What's up, Tyler?
Hey, how are you? Oh,
I'm good. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna roll into it.
no, usually you have
You
to
know what I
wait
do
when
is
you ask
well,
somebody
I
what's up.
know,
You
and
have
I
to
do this
wait for a
all the time. I
response.
pick up the phone. I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" Anyway, this is what I need, and people are like, "I'm good. How are you?" I'm like, "Shit. Sorry, my
Whoops.
bad.
It's
I
all right.
should have waited for you to answer. How are you?"
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. I
That's
like
what
that
you said.
answer. It is what I say. And people are like, "Wow, I can't believe I get you on your best day." I'm like, "Every day is my best day,
Yep.
even when it's not. It's my best day.
So
It's
who's
got to
who's
be."
on today?
Jeff Sweenor, man. It's been 230 episodes since we've had him.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
I didn't even know we had
Insane.
230 episodes.
I didn't know we had 280. This is episode 280, man.
Oh, what are we gonna do for the 300?
Oh, I mean, you know, the first thing that came to my mind was that
What?
movie 300 when they kicked the guy into
I
into
never
the hole.
saw it. I never saw it. I'm
Really?
not a huge movie guy.
Hey, let me ask you a question. How often do you think of the Roman
Uh-oh.
Empire?
Sorry. Either I just froze or you
You
just
fro
froze.
you
What'd you
you
say?
definitely froze.
Sorry,
I
what'd you
said,
say?
how often do you think of the Roman Empire?
Oh, not often.
Yeah, it's this TikTok trend that's going around. Apparently, guys think about it a lot.
Really?
Like it's yeah, these girls go around and ask their boyfriends like, "Hey, how often do you think of the Roman Empire?" And most of them are like, "I don't know, like once a week."
Really?
And so one of the girls that works here went around asking everyone, and I saw the trend, so I just screw with her and I said I think about it every hour.
Yeah.
But a few of my guys were like, "Yeah, probably once a week. Why?"
I feel like
And
I haven't thought
we were
about
like,
it
"Wait,
since
what?"
at least the last Sweenor podcast ago.
Yeah, yeah. So here I am talking about TikTok trends when we should be talking about Jeff Sweenor. Jeff Sweenor, Sweenor Builders out of Rhode Island. Had him on a bit ago. He was 50% the size of a company he is today. So we're going to talk about, well, he's got a new marketing campaign / video series that he's launching this fall that you guys are going to want to check out. But
I thought you were
also,
going to say he was 50% of the size that he was last
imagine
time we spoke.
I said business. I
I
said
know,
business.
but the
I
way
I
you delivered
I
it, I
I
was
know,
like,
and
whoa,
as
he
I was
got
delivering
big.
it, I realized I needed to add business.
Oh, that's funny.
That would be incredibly rude, and that would not be my style. So, yeah, business, we're talking. And, video, Sawdust is his video series. He's launched it a couple years ago, and he's restarting it, so you're gonna wanna make sure you pay attention to that on YouTube. And now we're gonna be competing for views. Uh,
Uh-oh.
I know there's only so many people in the world and only a couple trillion views on YouTube. So,
It's true.
um,
Yeah, but we also had Steve Cantor from his
mhm.
company on and his son Ryan. So if you want a little more background, you have the first episode with him, Steve's episode and Ryan's episode that you can catch up on before or after this episode.
This podcast is brought to you by Andersen. When making decisions on the product you spec, we're always thinking about what's right for the customer and what the specific project's needs are. We're also thinking about our reputation, and Andersen knows that the product they manufacture are part of the legacy that we're all trying to build.
From Fibrex composite material that delivers performance and looks at a budget-friendly price point to the Easy Connect reinforced joining system that makes it easier to assemble oversized window walls with less people, to Andersen's best performing A-series product line with the most energy efficient windows and doors Andersen has ever offered. Whatever your building needs are, they've got you covered. Andersen knows it's about fewer callbacks and products that will perform over time. That's why they test their products beyond the threshold required by the industry.
Andersen appreciates that. While it may be their products going into our projects, it's ultimately our brands that we're building. And they're proud to be helping us craft our legacies. Learn more about their product offering at andersenwindows.com. Do you find yourself frequently asking questions like, where's my Home Depot receipt? And who called that new lead? Or which project started framing today? Well, when you use a project management software like Buildertrend, you can finally put an end to those frustrating questions.
Buildertrend frees your team from keeping track of all the little details by allowing you to manage everything in one place. From sales to project planning and client communication to financial management, your entire business is run on one easy to use platform.
And to see how Buildertrend can help you stay on top of everything in one place, go to buildertrend.com/MC demo to schedule a free demo of the software. What is Sawdust and why do they want to sponsor the Modern Craftsman podcast?
So Sawdust is we did an experiment a few years ago during COVID when Tom Drought was one of the This Old House film guys, and I hired him to do a company video for us. And it just so happened that we just got started with the video project, and then COVID hit. So This Old House was shut down, and our project in Narragansett was just on hold. So Tom had rented a house down here because they're down here quite a bit, and so he said, "Well, I have this house, and I've got this video project." And he's like, "God, there's just so much content here." So he would go around every day, he'd film for a couple hours, then he'd go home and edit, and he's like, I just have to keep producing content. And so we sort of came up with this little series called Sawdust, and there was really no specific rhyme or reason to it. It was just basically go to different jobs during the day and look at some of the projects that we were doing, and meet some of the guys, and kind of go through that whole cycle. And it was cool. So we did that, and then it wasn't cheap. It was a little bit pricey to put together, and
I know.
it really didn't have, yeah, didn't have the big picture in mind as to what that meant. But in the end, you know, 4 years later, 3 years later, what it's proven to be is just high level marketing for
Yeah.
two reasons. One, for clients, so that they can sort of take a deep dive into their favorite subject, or number two, almost as importantly, it's been super instrumental for recruiting. So,
Hmm.
we get that's how we get our talent. Everybody gets to see who we are and how we do it. And so this year we decided to kick it back off, and we have a videographer that works for us, part time, and he's been, filming a bit, and we've got our first episode sort of in the can, and another one to go, another one soon to be ready, and we're going to launch sometime this fall.
Nice.
So yeah, so I just thought of it as a good way to get exposure to it. Your audience is my audience, I would think.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It's interesting. Like I remember when you launched the first Sawdust, and you and I had a conversation offline just about the cost of it. And I want to say you may have even asked me like, how do you offset the cost? And I probably gave you some sort of like BS answer as to like, oh, I just know that the ROI is there. But the reality is, I mean, it's enormously expensive.
yeah,
We were talking about it just the other day. And, for anyone that knows the amount of video that we're creating, we're well north of six figures in video and content creation, like
yeah,
significantly north of that. And, it was the same thing, especially from like my CFO side. They're like, this is a lot of money. Like, how are you offsetting this? You got to find a way to prove that this is worth it. But you said it perfectly. It's high level marketing and it's a recruiting tool.
yeah,
And we have an abundance of people that apply to work for us. And frankly, we can't and just don't have the position for everyone. And oftentimes they're tradespeople, and we just don't have a huge self-performing backlog right now. So it's hard to hire every carpenter that I would love to.
mm,
But it's high level marketing, and it's essentially educating your potential client over time. And
yeah,
I think of home building. Someone asked me recently, like, why are you on TikTok? And I was like, well, I mean, yeah, TikTok is filled with a bunch of crap, but the reality is like those, there's a and there's a younger generation that typically hangs out on there, but I'm marketing to them to eventually hope that they turn into a client, and that could be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
sure,
And we've recently had our first case of that, not TikTok specifically, but someone that had followed us a long time on Instagram and reached out to us about 4 years ago and wanted us to build something. And they, at the time, we communicated what it would cost, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is way too expensive. We can't afford you. We'll hire someone else. And
Yeah.
fast forward, they sold their, they sold their company, and they came into some additional money, and they called us and reintroduced himself and said, now we can afford you.
Mm,
And that was a direct, that's directly related to our social media.
sure.
We kept marketing, and they kept seeing the work that we were doing. And, when
I
they
have
were,
5 of those.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And the thing about the marketing is that it's really deep in that, when we get inquiries, if they don't know everything about us, I discount them because there's so much available to find to research us, and so I want the folks that want us specifically for what we do. I don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry that is making an inquiry to 5 builders. That's not our ideal client. I'm sure you guys can relate to that.
Yeah, and the chance of you may get that client, but it's better spent time and resources on the customers who come to you wanting you in the first place.
Right. Right.
so
I only have one ear, but we're just gonna roll with it. Have you ever tested the audio on StreamYard, like where it
oh
says
no,
test your headphones? So they have a custom song that's like you are testing the StreamYard audio. It sounds like they're working. You've never tried it?
no,
I had neither. They had like a song made for them that's
it's
singing
amazing.
about how you're testing your headphones. I was just cracking up.
That's amazing.
It is. But
Jeff,
we're
you
just
said
gonna roll one ear.
you said you had 5 right now that came through Instagram.
No, 5 of those stories
Oh,
where, people that followed us along and then boom, sold their company. And, yeah, really, really, it's such a great phone call to get,
yeah.
that the ink isn't even dry and we're ready to go.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was chatting with them, they were talking about social media because they were like, they love the fact that we video everything, and they were asking if we're going to video the project. I'm like, yeah, of course. I mean, every project we're going to video if we can. And he had asked like, how much of your business comes through social media? I said, honestly, it's at this point 90 to 95% of our business is coming through social media. And he laughed and he said, wow. And he goes, so we're the only one that didn't? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, no, we reached out to you, 5 years ago, and that was through like, a Google search. I'm
Sure.
like, sure, but then you followed me and for 5 years and realized that you wanted to work with me. And he's like, oh yeah. Yeah, I guess that is through social media. I'm like, right. I'm like, it's either starting there or you're solidifying, the decision to work with someone, through that marketing. And that could
Yeah.
be a quick decision, or that could be a 5-year decision.
Right. Right. So just curious, what episode is this?
Number?
It's the one with
Yeah.
Jeff Sweenor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. What number are we on?
Goodness. Hold on. I can tell you in 1 second.
That's what we need. We need a producer on like full time that they're sitting
Yeah.
there that we can ask these
And
questions
that
to.
answer that
It will
question.
be number 280.
280. So I was on number 53.
Was it
Oh,
That was
really
it.
that long
that's
ago?
Yep.
crazy.
There hasn't
Yep.
been a single one since then.
Nope.
Really?
No, we almost did a cameo on a quick one at the Builder Show. Like I'm walking down the aisle and you're like, "Hey, you got time for a?" Oh,
And you're like, absolutely not.
yeah.
Absolutely not. Well, a lot has changed since episode 53. You've moved, right?
Yeah. We're in. I think we were in the process of sort of, renovating our office space, and yeah. So that not long after that, we moved our shop and our office. And we were in 2 locations before, and now we're
Hmm.
in one, and it's phenomenal.
Now,
Um,
correct me if I'm wrong. You moved into a bigger office space, smaller shop,
yeah. Yep.
and why smaller shop?
Well, the thing about shop space is that no matter what size space you have to work with, you fill it,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, we had, when we first moved into that shop, I'm like, well, it's probably 1,000 square feet bigger than what we need, but okay.
Hmm.
And then, lo and behold, we filled it, and you just end up keeping stuff,
Yeah.
right? A slab of this or a piece of that that you'll someday going to use, and then you never use it, and so we designed the shop to be super efficient in that, material comes in and gets built and goes right out the door,
Hmm.
so that we don't have space for storage. We don't have space for a ton of raw good material storage. It's sort of made to order. And
So
um,
when you misorder a drawer box, where does that go? Because I can tell you right now where ours goes up on top of a loft, and there's
yeah, we do have a
47 of them.
loft. We do have
Okay.
that loft, and it's
Yeah.
filled with missized drawer
Miscellaneous.
boxes
Yeah.
and drawer fronts and doors.
Yep.
Um, but we have so we just recently got we're about a month into a 5x10 CNC machine. So we're
Is that
hoping
in the
that,
shop?
yeah, yep,
So
yep,
I mean, that's a big piece of equipment for a small
yeah,
shop.
yeah, and everything we have is on wheels except for the CNC, and the two big table saws. But planers, joiners,
Hmm.
sanders, tables, Craig, all of that stuff is all on wheels. We have edge banding, all of that stuff, so that we just sort of spin it around as we need it, and yeah, make room.
Are you guys
It's
building all your cabinets or just some?
we're building 75% of them, I would say.
Wow.
I mean, we just recently sort of calculated it that we have a year's backlog in the shop itself, which is, dangerously close to saying we need a bigger shop. uh,
And that's only for your own projects?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't do
What was the
anything.
justification for the CNC? Like, how did you justify that?
Efficiency. You know, it's really about education about what that piece of equipment does for you, and it
Hmm.
and it basically eliminates one person of cutting, right?
Yeah.
Of basically a table saw. Um, it's so much safer, so much utilization of material is insane. You put a 5x10 piece of pre-finished maple on that table, and it does what's called optimize, and you'll be left with pencils as
Yeah.
scraps. It's just incredible. Um, so what happens is that we the thing with CNC is it's all drawing. So we've trained our design team to be able to work in Mosaic, which is the software that interacts between Revit, which is what we
Got
draw
it.
in,
Yeah.
and the CNC. So if our design team does the drawing, then it's just inputted into the machine, and our cabinet makers can be assembling, so that cutting is sort of taking place in the background. And again, it eliminates the need for a person to do that.
Did you guys always build your own cabinets?
Yeah, yeah, we have, but it was always the old school, method, and we more or less did um, vanities, built-ins, specialty things. We did a few kitchens, but we weren't super efficient with them. But yeah, we've always built cabinetry, and um, but we've taken it to a whole different level. Now we build our own closet systems, so we're basically
Especially
using.
with the CNC. Makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. So all the holes, automatic. So we're basically using, the same type of system that an easy closet or a California closet. That same, but instead of using melamine, we're using, you know, furniture grade, pre-finished maple or
Hmm.
walnut or mahogany, and then we're using those panel, and then we have the edge bander. So then we're making modules for, the verticals, and cutting our shelves to order, basically, and drawers and stuff.
Is
So
that a
And t-
separate business or is that the same business?
same business.
Do you know
Yeah.
like what your margins are on that versus your building company? Obviously, the sales, like the gross sales, are going to be different, but when you, uh, I feel like building built-ins and vanities is a completely different beast than building kitchens. Just from like you said, an efficiency standpoint. Like, was it when you started building your own kitchens, was it because of like a hiccup in the production line or a bottleneck, or were you like, hey, we could be profitable doing this?
Well, the latter was probably the least of the approaches. So first and foremost, I wanted to do it because I wanted to be the custom, we build everything in the house kind of approach. Um, then, the sort of the whole COVID experience, we experienced that backlog at the cabinetry factory. So we were able to be nimble and keep building. And now, I would say we don't have a firm grip on what those margins are compared to our,
Sure.
building company. It's all done in aggregate. So, it's a sort of blended rate. Our design, our interior design, our cabinetry, our masonry are all sort of separate functioning businesses in a way, but we don't really track each one as a separate company. Not to say that we shouldn't be. I think that's definitely a direction that we need to head in now that we've got um, our company is completely different from when we were on last. It's probably twice the size,
Yeah. How
both
many
in
people do you have now?
people. 75,
Oh my
75
gosh.
total. Yeah, yeah,
Wow. How many projects
that's
do you have going on?
um we probably have, well, there's a board in front of me, like my whiteboard. It's got 18 on it. So not all of them are, you know, permit, some of them are designed. So I would say probably 15 in motion, and then, probably another 5 in design somewhere.
How many
So
people did you have a few years ago, like when
like
we spoke?
30 or 40, I think.
Yeah, probably half that. Probably 35.
And what was the impetus for the extreme growth over the past few years?
Um,
Damn
well,
kids.
yeah, I mean, we were hitting it pretty hard in 2017 or 18, whenever it was. Then we had 4 seasons with this old house. We had our Sawdust thing, so we had a lot of marketing behind us. Um, we were putting out a good product, and then COVID really was a game changer for us in
Hmm.
terms of, Narragansett, Rhode Island is a great place to live, but there's no industry here. It's not a great place to work. And then all of a sudden, we're building houses for Google executives, and they're moving from San Francisco to to Narragansett, and
No way.
business owners, and so many folks that we are building for now wouldn't have been possible had the remote, COVID experience not changed the game from that perspective. Um, so those are those couple things. The property values in our area have probably close to doubled since then.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, again, really nice place. Mostly second homes, but it's a great place to live, and people are discovering it. It becomes an alternative to some of the properties on the Cape and the Hamptons. We're kind of tucked in between.
Did you bring anyone in when you started to grow that much that quickly on like the business end of things, or is that you handling that, or was it just like let's just keep rolling with this?
Well, we always had a CFO from the business side of it, which was, you know, before that. But really, the biggest sort of personnel acquisition that we made was Steve Cantor, who Nick's Julian has met and has spent some time with, and Steve's role was really managing that workforce. So that's what has enabled us to grow. You know, before everybody came to me.
Yeah.
When it was any HR issue, mostly how about a raise kind of thing, but really any HR issue was me, and it's a huge distraction. I mean, it's a big so if you have 35 people potentially knocking on your door, and then you go to 75 people, that can be busy. So
Jeff, just a
Steve,
comment on that. Like, I'll be honest. That has been, that was something that I went through these last 12 months, where it's like it was all HR. Everything I did every single day was HR related. It was people related. It was yeah, yeah. Of course, you get people asking for a raise. I think that's it's like, hey, I have this issue. By the way, I want to make more money,
yeah,
but that ha- that is exactly where I am right now, where I realize that all of my attention has been HR related when that's not what I'm good at. And that's not what I can put all of my attention to when I'm trying to build a business.
right,
So to hear
right,
you say, Steve and I have chatted quite a bit offline, and I'm glad, Julian was able to meet with him. Um, but that is something that that even Julian and I talk about quite a bit. And just the other week, we had a pretty raw conversation between him and I, and basically kind of put me in my place where it's like, hey man, like if this is my role, I got to do this. And and I'm notorious for coming on a job site and waving my wand around saying, "Hey, do this and do that, and this would be
yeah,
cool, and this would be cool." When the
yeah.
reality is like all I'm doing is hurting Julian.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I would say that I've had a few of those conversations myself where Steve's, put me in my place to say, look, if you're going to empower me to do my job, you got to get out of the way and let me do my job and not interfere. If I do a backdoor or I sidestep the process, then I've just diluted the entire effort. So um, yeah, he's 100% on it, and it's been game changing for us because we've weeded out some of the low level players, weeded out some folks that I just sort of tolerated, and now I mean every single person in this company is an A player, and it's so powerful that once you have that culture, it polices itself, and it thrives with in itself.
when you say A player, were these new people, or were these people that weren't operating at an A level and were coached by Steve?
I would say the bulk of them knew. You know, I would say over the course of, let's say, 3 years, we really did some steady growing and real organic growing. It was folks that reached out to us mostly via Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and so and then then when you get those that influx of people, they have friends, and they mention to their buddy, hey, this is a great situation here, we're doing some really high quality work, and um, and so we've been able to attract talent from that perspective as well.
Did you have to change things internally from a business perspective, or was it more so just putting different people in different positions and changing the faces?
Um, yeah, I mean, it was more of having the workforce be, sort of one point of contact to control the workforce, and then we have four project managers that each sort of run their own business essentially, right? So each project manager is running, two or three jobs, and then the sort of the request for manpower goes through Steve. So, we're in a framing stage on one job, and there's 4 or 5 guys there framing, and then, then we're on to exterior trim, and, we add another crew to that. So it's, it's a, it's a healthy dynamic,
Hmm.
a lot of communication. We have a weekly meeting on Wednesday to go through every single project, all the updates, client updates, and then manpower updates, and try to try to see that forecast out, weeks or even months at a time, to see where we're needed, where we're going to be short, where we're going to be heavy, and always trying to adjust.
It's interesting to think of it from a perspective of essentially you're running 4 companies, not one, or like 4 PMs are 4 separate companies, entities, not one. Is there an overlap there with regard to your labor where, if you actually had 4 separate companies, they would all have different sub pools and everything else. So is there an overlap between everyone where you're using common subs and common labor from within house, or is everyone kind of staying to their own little branch within the company?
No, that's a great question. There's definitely overlap. Certainly with our self-performing labor, there's overlap, and there might be some alignment, where certain guys just sort of gel with a certain project manager, and it just sort of seems to stick, which is fine. But it's nice to be able to have everybody well rounded and work under a little bit of everybody, so that
Yeah.
way the knowledge grows, the level just comes up, so that some of the guys, some of the more senior guys may say, hey, Doug over here on this job, he this is what he did in this situation, and oh, that's a great idea, so
Mm.
there's definitely some knowledge sharing there. As far as subs go, we have a pretty big sub base, but we certainly have our favorites that are on every job, no matter what PM it is. So we're always trying to weave, those favored, those preferred partners into our master schedule, which can be dicey. They might say to us, okay, who's going to win here? I got Sweenor against Sweenor, so you tell me which one, who's going to win. So it's nice to have a broad sub base, but it's also nice to have those go-to guys that have been with us for decades, and to be able to say, hey, I need this, I need you here on this day for this reason, and they're working for us.
Yeah. So what is with regard to your role within the company, what are the changes? What are the differences from 3 years ago? Like, do you have more responsibility now? Do you have less responsibility? What's that look like?
Yeah, I have less.
I feel like I see you on Strava all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think you work.
What the hell is
Yeah.
Strava?
Well, that's at
Just
5:30 in
just
the
my
morning, but
biggest fan on Strava. It's like
yeah.
if nobody else likes my workouts, I know Jeff's gonna be there for me to keep me
Wait, what is
going.
Strava?
You know what Strava is?
No.
Must be
Oh
for
my
us older gentlemen.
God.
You're a
Um,
year older than me.
it's like a
Strava is
GPS that tracks your workouts
Oh,
and
I
maps
definitely
your
don't need a
workouts. So then,
GPS on me.
nah, because you can do it'll essentially clock what your times are, where you ran, where you rode, and then if you do the
Oh,
same thing, you can overlay them and see what your times were like, or you can
got it.
ride or race loops that people do.
Got
So
it.
it's a way to track your workouts also for like the year. It'll total everything up.
I stopped
Yeah,
running. I've just been in the gym, so my GPS wouldn't move very much.
Hmm.
right. I mean, it's kind of social media to a certain
Mm,
extent, but for me, it's a logbook, and it
yeah.
Yeah.
and it, it's
Because you
got
ride,
such
right?
great data. Yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah.
don't run.
No, I don't run anymore,
Yeah.
but on the bike, it's so much less impact, and my brother rides, so we ride together, four times a week,
Four?
and
Damn. How far?
we go anywhere from 30 to 40 miles each ride.
Yeah.
Um, so hour and a half, and and it gives you that data. I've got a power meter on there. I've got
Mm,
a heart rate monitor, so I know, what my watt output is, what my average heart rate is,
mm,
what my speed is, average speed, and like Tyler said, you have different segments in the road, from this stop sign to that stop sign.
yeah.
Maybe it's a quarter mile, and you're repeating that segment every so often, and it gives you your time compared to the last time. So
Mhm.
so it's a really good measure of your fitness. I just like the data, and it's a really good logbook,
Yeah, and
basically,
Tyler's data,
Yeah.
and
of
Tyler's data.
course.
But it'll log all your exercise and whatever workouts you do,
Mm,
and you can look at it monthly, weekly, yearly, and see what you logged and what you tracked in
that's
that amount
cool.
of time as well,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
neat. And then it is like if you're training for something and you're doing a consistent loop, you can see what your progress looks like
right.
and
Yeah.
how you're building strength, and even like down to, like Jeff said, different segments of whatever that loop is. It's a neat app.
I think, I mean, it's probably a big reason why you keep going out to ride and why you keep going out to run. Where it's
Totally,
Oh
like,
yeah.
you
totally
see
is.
it and you see this constant improvement. And,
Yeah,
I think about business, right? Like you think about what you measure, what you track, and when you see improvement, you're inclined to continue to move on that. And one of the most recent examples is forever I have a whiteboard of all incoming projects. And sure enough, like they have the potential revenue associated with them. But
yeah,
I've never put that in a spreadsheet that totaled up like how much work we're chasing, like what's the dollar value of what's potential for us.
yeah,
And recently, we were struggling with a project to get it started, and ultimately they decided to delay the project, which was a huge kick in the ass. Like we wanted to start the project and they decided to delay it.
mm,
And it my mind went into this, all right, it basically like playing out all these worst case scenarios, right? Like when something doesn't go right,
yep,
and we started implementing this lead generation software that basically tracks all of our inbound leads. And I opened it up, and there was this huge dollar value at the bottom. It was like $24 million worth of
right.
work, and I'm
Hmm.
like, oh man, I've never looked at it that way. I'm like, that's really exciting. And it's
Yeah,
and that right there was like a complete mood change. It's like, dude, we have so much opportunity here.
sure.
And I think, this app Strava, it's like,
It's
you know,
totally relatable. It's a great point. You can't improve what you can't measure.
mhm,
Yeah.
And so, I have, in the past 5 years since I was on last, I mean, the measurables that we have that I look at, Tyler, you asked me what I do now is that, I don't worry about HR anymore. I don't, I'm looking at it globally. I'm acting as a CEO, and a lot of it is looking at spreadsheets, and I have so much data that I'm analyzing, and really just diving deep into the refinement of, what does every hour look like, and the spread, and there's so many little data points that I can pull from that, just measurables to see how we're improving month over month and week after week, or all of those things to make subtle improvements. And yeah, it's just like Strava.
so
It's
you're, you know for for the most part, you're just analyzing data. Are you handling any lead flow?
Yeah. So I'm sales. I'm
Yeah,
100% sales.
no one else
Uh,
is in that role.
nope,
So
nope.
you get an inbound lead from a potential client. Ex Google executive wants to move to Narragansett, build
Yeah,
a killer oceanside house.
yeah,
What's that process look like for you?
yeah. That's it's a courtship. Um, it could be months.
Hmm.
Usually you don't get a call and it's, hey, I have a full set of plans. I have a permit. Can you start next week? Um, most of what we do is design build, so
Hmm.
we're getting them super early. Just conceptual, starting out of the gate, and it depends on the client, how quickly they want to move, but that courtship will involve, me taking them to a few jobs. And I like to send people to jobs, that are in process. And I say to them, you're going to visit this job at, 10 Main Street, and I want you to go in and you're going to ask for the site super, Mike, and just look around and pretend like that's your job that you're going to. Would you be happy with what you're seeing? Are you seeing a bunch of guys sitting around shooting the shit and not getting any work done? Or are you seeing, asses and elbows and, trim going up? And what do you what how does this make you feel? Is it
Hmm.
neat? Is it organized? Are you impressed with the work and all of those things? So that's sort of one piece. And then, inevitably we'll get them into a recently finished house that's similar to theirs. Um, a lot of sharing of different job examples and drawings and, um, photo albums that might be relevant to their project. But really, then it just boils down to getting them to see as much of the company as they can.
Hmm.
You get them to the office and meet the staff here. um, so yeah, so it's usually, depending on the size of the job, which, our jobs are probably 1.5 million to 7 million. So, on a bigger job, you're probably spending more time in that sort of courtship period.
Yeah. I mean that so at that point, you're introducing them to the design team, and is that process from like with design, you're budgeting at the same time, or are you setting budget expectations up before design?
Yeah, I've learned to really set that budget
Hmm.
expectation right out of the gate. And
Yeah.
I've become almost bold with it to say, look, we're not for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be probably the most expensive one you talk to.
Yeah.
But we build houses to last 100 years, and
Hmm.
to do that, it's going to cost more. The materials that we choose are more. The techniques that we use are more. We're going above and beyond the code in so many ways,
Hmm.
and if that's something that you're interested in, then then we can keep talking. But if again, we're not for everybody. So I try to get that right out of the gate, and I'm always saying what what I'm seeing for, our price per square foot, range. And I'm telling
Because you're
them now,
measuring it.
it's, yes, like, expect to see $750 a square foot.
Hmm.
And sort of getting that out early enough in the process. I don't want to spend weeks
Hmm.
before we get to that. Oh my God, I can't afford that. So trying to get that right out of the way early, so that we can spend the rest of the time really dialing in on their project, not that mystery of, what are they going to think. And
And
so
that's important. And I mean, I even had a conversation with somebody today where oftentimes people, they don't understand what they're selling or how they're different than the guy next door. And when somebody calls them for a lead and wants to discuss pricing, or that they're looking to bid this project, like I personally want to know why you're calling me. Like I know what I can offer, but what do you want from me? If it's a bid, it doesn't probably make that much sense. If you're just looking for a number,
yeah,
if you want somebody who's
right,
fast, like there's going to be faster people. Um, so a lot of times understanding what you're selling is the first step in that whole process and is going to weed out so many customers, because if you're not selling a number, you're not selling that you're going to be competitive by, you know, bringing the most affordable options to the table, that you're focusing on quality, that's going to dictate who your customer is right off the bat.
sure,
And it's
yeah,
crazy to me how far along in this process people go without ever discussing that. And it doesn't even have to be budget as much as just like like what are you selling? What
Yeah,
type of product does Sweenor Builders offer? And I think along with that, it's going to dictate your price point, but it really comes down to like what do you guys want to be doing? Who are you? What do you stand for? And I think that the price reflects that.
sure. Yeah, I mean, a really good point. I mean, we get probably most of our inquiries come via email, our info at, um, and when the email says something like, we're looking for quotes or we're looking for estimates, I just, I brush those off so quickly. I don't even want to return the call, but I just, I'll be quick and abrupt with my response and just say, we don't offer estimates. We don't give quotes. We work with people that want to work with us,
Mhm.
not the other way around. So
Yeah, and that's perfect. It is important to see where those leads are coming from because you're going to know best what leads bring the most success and that landing rate. I mean, I know where my leads come from, and oftentimes it's like, well, if you found my name there, nobody knows who I am there, and they're just throwing out names. So like
yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah,
they you don't know what I do, so chances of you wanting to hire me, like you're probably barking up the wrong tree.
right. Yeah, I can't even return all the leads that I get. It's just that we just get so many that I have to be selective, and I have to pick the ones that I think have a chance of being a job that we're interested in. And I just you just can't handle I just can't handle every single one
Are you
because
doing any other marketing besides social media and, obviously what you've done in the past with TV?
no, nothing.
Yeah.
When especially since when we decided to focus back on Sawdust, we just said that's all we're doing. So we haven't done a print ad. We haven't done
Mhm.
anything in the way of marketing at all. So we're just try to steer those dollars into
Video.
yeah, into video. And we just finished a filming a commercial for Andersen Windows,
Mhm.
and we're hoping that that'll be our marketing, even though it's their marketing.
Yeah.
So
So how did you settle on? I mean, I know that it's just where you are right now, but like how did you end up at 75 from 43 years ago, and like how is this a good spot for you? What are the metrics on that? Like why
I
not
don't have any more
if you have
room at
that
my
many,
whiteboard.
right? But it's like if you have that many leads that you're turning down and you've gone from 40 to 75 and it's been a profitable exercise and growth for you, why not go to 100?
Uh, every
The
year,
question, right?
yeah, every year I rewrite. So I'm in the Builder 20 clubs with the NAHB, and so we're with 13 builders from around the country that do the same thing. And every year I have to write a board report. Well, I write it twice a year, but I write a board report, and I put my strategic objective in there, and it's what the company looks like in 3 years' time. And so I look back, and every time we've gotten to that 3 year objective. So, it's not inconceivable, Tyler. I don't think that it's not an endless cycle. We have the ability to layer in where we need to layer in. When I say we turn down so many leads, I mean there are leads that are just not. They wouldn't be our clients even if we had 25 more people.
Mhm.
So I have to be aware of what the market what our market is and how much absorption, how much market share is there. And so, is it a case of new market share? Well, I think that did happen when we talked about the COVID experience. There was new market share, but so now growth would have to be, acquiring other market share from somebody else, or a different geography, we're in a really small, I mean, we might be in a 20-mile radius. That's about it. So expanding on our radius would be one way, but we definitely have the ability to layer in, another project manager who can handle, 2 to 3 more jobs, and then,
Hmm.
and adding the manpower. We do a lot of recruiting at the high school level. So we have probably 10 kids that came on with us that we recruited out of high school. We started them 1 year an apprenticeship, and then they become carpenters, and they sort of climb the ladder. So if we keep replenishing that bottom level, and keep growing that, there's really no reason why we couldn't go to 100 people.
When you talk about that ladder and recruiting at that bottom level, when say I'm a high school kid, I reach out, I'm like, Jeff, I want to come work for you. I don't have any experience, and you put me into that apprenticeship role. Is that a formal role? Like, is there formal training? Is there a checklist I'm going through? Like, have you mapped out the career of a 17-year-old to 40 years old?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We put a lot of effort into it.
Hmm.
So the basic apprenticeship period, we do it over the summer. So it's typically July and August. So right after the school year, and they essentially are laborers during the day. So they're on a job site, and they might be moving material. They might be doing a little bit of demo. They might be, you know, cleaning a job site. When you have this many projects, there's always a demand for labor. So filling those roles was pretty easy. And then they came to the office, and we would do like a 2 hour window of some module. So we would teach them, basic tools and
Hmm.
safety, and then different materials, and then different fastening techniques, different cutting techniques, and really go through that 10-week program of all of these modules. And then, by the end of that period, you sort of decide, who you think has the aptitude for this, and where they might fit. And, we'll offer them a job, and then, so that's been a successful thing for us for probably going on 4 years now.
I mean, it's a lot. Like, that itself, mapping that out is a lot of work, and I know that firsthand because that's something that we have been working on. Is I've had a lot when I talk about earlier. What I talked about earlier is like having a lot of these HR conversations and spending a lot of my time in this HR role. I realized that that was a reoccurring question. It's like, well, it's great. Like, I understand that I'm a project manager. I understand I'm a carpenter. I think I understand that I'm an apprentice. What does that mean? And how do I move to the next role? What are the things I
Yeah,
need to do? And I actually met with a builder out of Maryland and my friend Kevin Craddock here in Boston, and we actually sat down and chatted about it. And the builder in Maryland actually started putting together this carpenter's hand blue book or handbook or something like that. He called it, but
yeah,
ultimately, gave a carpenter a checklist as to like, here's what you are expected to know at every particular level.
sure.
And we've had our job descriptions nailed down for a while, and for a long time I'm like, don't you just look at the job description? If you're doing that and you're doing it well, obviously you're going to get a promotion. And
Yeah, yeah,
at face value, that you're probably similar. It's like, yeah, duh, like, just look at this and like check it off. But the reality
yeah,
is they want more than that. People want to understand more than that. And now we have this document where it's exactly what you just said. It outlines an apprentice level, and then it talks about these are the things that you should do. And it goes into salary ranges, and then it says, check, basically, here's a checklist of the things that you need to be able to do in order for you to be considered for a promotion. And it
yeah,
brings you all the way to a lead carpenter. And at a lead, then you have this like kind of opportunity to either go into the management route, which is site super or project manager, or you stick to the carpentry and you become like a senior lead. And what does a senior lead mean? And how does that salary change? And do you become a specialized carpenter?
I'll
And
just
basically,
send it to you, Jeff. I have a copy of it. If Nick
Well,
starts
that's, I
selling
mean,
them, I'm going to undercut him.
it's a great trail though. You know, and I have that conversation with the younger kids to say, you can start and end your career here.
yeah.
We offer everything in between.
And before Tyler decided to offer this for sale for everyone that's going to reach out to him and not me, my
For
final
whatever,
thought.
it's going to be less than whatever Nick lifts it for. So
Definitely. My point on that is it was days worth of work, and it was super cumbersome, and reading it, and it was something that I felt as though like I don't understand how this is providing any more value than I've provided. And when I finished it and I reviewed it with my team, and I actually shared it with a few people that are on our team as well as a couple peers, Tyler being one of them, the feedback was like, this is amazing. And
Right.
then we started using it for people that were interviewing for hire, and they're like, this is great. This makes me understand where I am, what my potential growth opportunity is. And I guess my point is, anyone listening, like when you map it out, as redundant as it might seem, it's actually a pretty valuable tool.
Yeah.
And also, like, shows that you're serious about someone's role.
Right. Well, the interesting thing for us is that because we're self-performing so much, that everybody sort of seems to think that the natural progression is, you're apprentice, you're a carpenter, you're a lead carpenter, then you're a site super, then you're a project manager, and obviously that's not the case for us because we would have 70 project managers and no carpenters. So my point is that there's I I have an affinity for the guys that just want to be carpenters,
Yeah.
and you can still grow in terms of salary range, and show me your value, I'll show you the money,
Yep.
and there's an unlimited ceiling to what you can produce as a carpenter, as a high level carpenter, as a finished carpenter, as a framer. If you can produce those results, that you'll still be climbing the ladder in terms
Hmm.
of your worth and your salary, and and the overtime opportunities. And
And I want to unpack that just for a minute, because I feel like a lot of people listen to this, and when what you just said, it's like there's an unlimited, there's no ceiling, right? People are like, well, explain that to me. It's like, if I'm making $30 an hour, how can I'm already a great carpenter. And for simple math, it's like, if a staircase takes you typically a week to complete, to trim out, to put the treads on, and you're doing it in 2.5 days, it's like, if I, as the builder, can sell that staircase for, say, $5,000, and it takes you 5 days to do it, it's like there's still that amount of money on the sales table, and you're doing it in double or half the time, and there's still that same revenue attached to it. You're more valuable.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and of course, like, that example, like, the point is there's when you become more efficient at your job. I think of someone like Spencer Lewis, right? Like, Spencer Lewis, the name of the game for him is do this as efficient as possible, as fast as possible, still producing high quality work. So if his market says, hey, he can only charge $100 an hour, $75 an hour, whatever it is, it's like, that's fine. He's pricing the job based on that hourly rate. But if he goes in and shaves a day here, a day there, a week there, he's still putting the same money in his pocket for the same amount of work,
mm,
for less time involved. And that I think, going back to what you said in the beginning of that sentence, is, not everyone wants to be a site super or project manager or in management at all. And I think, as builders or owners, we oftentimes take really great lead carpenters and say, great, now you're a site super, and they fail
right,
at it. Kevin Craddock talked about that on the podcast. It's like, we take these great carpenters and think that they're going to make a great super, and it's like, they're not. And
yeah,
and
yeah,
oftentimes, the only reason that they take that role is because there's more money attached to it.
Right.
more growth potential attached to
Sure.
it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think at the high end where we are, there's that's what I mean by the ceiling. When if you're doing track homes and you're bidding on finished trim package or a frame, you're always going to be defined by the your quote, your bid, your whatever it is, and the market's only going to pay so much. But when you're doing super high end work, there's almost an unlimited amount of what the potential of that project could be, and the challenge of that project, and certainly the skill set, and those skill sets will be rewarded with higher dollars. And the other thing that I try to, I like the culture of guys that we have that are, they just love being carpenters and they love being great at it.
Mhm.
And where the value is to me with those guys is if I can give them a $15 an hour, 20-year-old, and say, learn him up and expose him to this so that we can, there's the blended rate. I might be paying top dollar for the top guys and only making certain spread on those guys. But if you have an assistant that you making more spread on, you combine that and you have a blended rate that is a better metric. So that's where the value of these top guys, these experiences is them training up the younger guys to be proficient at certain things.
So is that how you're working on maintaining budget as well when you're paying people who are in-house employees,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
more like a more fair rate for the industry? Because even while you're talking, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about having all of these people in-house, and obviously that creates like a sustainable business model because if things slow down, you can keep people busy and not subcontract. Um, but at the same time, like the perks of subcontracting workout is that you're not owning the training, you're not owning the overhead and the labor burden and the mistakes as much as when you own that labor. And then it's like, how do you afford to own a higher dollar labor when you're trying to maintain budget? And to think of blending that rate with a lower rate, right? And you divide that in half. Now you have a middle of the road rate, but you're probably getting above average work for that rate.
yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, we work on that all the time. We're building out a crew to frame a house, and we know that we should be framing it for whatever it is, $30 a square foot, and that's what our sort of budget benchmark is based on. This is hypothetical. I don't know if that's an actual number, but and then it's all right. I can't have seven guys that are all making $45 to $50 an hour on that crew.
Mhm.
We have to mix that up and have some lower threshold guys that are helping to balance that budget, and again, that's how they're learning to become the higher guys. I want them all to be super successful. I want them all to be making the top dollar, as long as they're bringing others along with them, and we're making spread on the younger guys coming up, then the math works.
And
So
I think it's important to highlight like the difference there, right? Because there are people who are building tract homes and they're very married to that cost. And I think that they see people who work in an area like you do where they see it as being cost plus and they're essentially like, well, yeah, they have that many employees because they're making money on everyone regardless. Like if they're paying an employee 75 and they're charging you 35% on top of that, of course, why wouldn't you own employees? But you have to consider that there's still a cap to what you can charge for certain trades and certain things, and in order to maintain budget, you still have to make those numbers work. And
Sure.
I would feel a lot of times that it would be harder to do that in house, owning that labor and keeping those mouths fed for longer than one job at a time than it is to just subcon. I mean, there's pros and cons to it, but I understand both models, but half the time I'm like, I'd rather just not own the labor burden and the headache and the learning curves and be like, this is your price. You screwed this up or you put people on the job that took twice as long. That's not my issue.
Right.
Than to try and have people in house and manage the budget and still get people paid fair wages. And then it doesn't end when that job's over. You have to
Yeah.
put them on the job after that and make sure that there's work lined up for them after that.
Yeah, I mean it's not an easy business model. It's certainly a lot easier to subcontract everything, and then you've your guesswork is eliminated, and it's so much more predictable. But it's just way more fun having all. I just love having a team, and it all boils back to athletic background of having that team and having those team and growing that team and training that team and having that culture and that dynamic and um, yeah, I
How
wouldn't trade it. Wouldn't trade it.
I I keep seeing this reference to sports teams, and obviously Steve, he's a coach, right? And him and I oftentimes share a lot of similar video clips of coaches, encouraging people. And Julian actually shared one the other day. I forget. I'm not a sports guy, so like he shared like it was like after a recent game, and he's like, I wish, like the goal is to like motivate a team in that manner. And so when you think about, I guess, your role, right? Like thinking about you as the owner when you're motivating your team or you're encouraging your team, what does that look like? Is it, are how are you getting them to buy into what Sweenor Builders is all about?
Uh, well, I'm not a super motivating guy in terms of how I speak.
Okay.
Um, I'm the silent. I'm much more about humility than I am about boisterous. So it's
You're
just
not
sort of
doing Woo Wednesdays?
no, no. Um, yeah, even in the gym, it's quiet. There's no, that we have to sign up, no chit chat. It's all business. Um,
So let
ah,
me let me let me stop you there for a
yeah.
second. So was that like with before Steve, was that an issue? Like did you, I guess where I'm going with this is, did you struggle to get your team to understand what the bigger picture was?
No, I wouldn't say. I think where I struggled was that I didn't have, I didn't have the discipline in the hiring and firing process because I was too nice.
Yeah. So you
And
hire quick and you fire slow.
right.
Yeah.
And so I always had the company that I settled for,
Mhm.
that I was willing to tolerate. And that becomes toxic, when others are around you and they're performing at a high level, but you know I've tolerated somebody with not the same philosophy. And then once Steve took over that job, he made it very clear, especially during the onboarding process, that you know you'll be fired so fast that your head will spin. So, we don't tolerate anything now, and that has really changed the dynamic and the culture of who we have and how they react, how they behave, how they perform on a daily basis. Um, it's the level has come up so much because of that.
I mean, essentially, you're holding people accountable, and the people who are already on board who don't want to hear that are going to leave because
Yeah,
that's not their style. And then the people who come on board understand that culture and want that culture and are willing to sign up for that culture in the first place.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head.
I mean,
Oh,
I just saw something. It might have been today where like Deion Sanders just did that with the team and had like a third of the team leave before they even started the season. It was basically
Yeah,
like, yeah, if you're not going to be the best player and you don't want to be here, you should just leave now because we want all the best players. And it's like,
right.
yeah, if this is who we want on our team, and if you're not cut out for that, there's nothing wrong with that or you. It's just like that's who we're trying to put together right now, and we need to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah. I mean, I think the exact same thing as Deion Sanders. I think the guy's awesome. I just don't verbalize it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't talk the talk. I just think that's going on in my head. Everything he's saying is going on in my head, and that's exactly how I run my life. But I try to be a little bit more, you know,
You know what I find is like for me, it was always, okay, you know what, I didn't do the right thing. I didn't give them the right information, or I didn't give them the correct job description. So that's
yeah,
why they're not performing, or this career path thing that I'm talking about. It's like, you know what, if I outline the career path, then they'll understand where we're going. And and it's the issue with like this whole extreme ownership, like what Jocko talks about. It's like it's
yeah,
all your fault. Like you got to accept responsibility, and I've really taken that to a point where it's, when something isn't right, I've accepted the fact that it's on me. But I'm the same way, Jeff. It's like I would I would I would take blame, and then I wouldn't, in my mind I'm like, but I know this person can perform better, or I know that they don't have the right personality to be here, or whatever the case is. And I would constantly just be like, no, they do. I just have to, I have to, communicate, this is the personality that you need to be. And I would go into this in this like whirlwind.
yeah.
And I actually talked to Leif Babin, who co-wrote that book, and I had asked him, because you said earlier, like, you have all A players, all A plus players.
Yeah.
I had asked him I was like, hey, is everyone in the SEALs an A plus player? And I expected him to say yes and explain to me why. And he said no.
Hmm.
And he was like, no, absolutely not. And he's like, there's a lot of guys that are C's, some of them are D's, maybe a couple F's. And and it really messes with kind of everything we're talking about here. I'm like, walk me through that. I'm like, you have all you guys are supposed to be the best, right? Like, you guys are the cream of the crop. And ultimately what he was talking about is that, or what he said is that, yeah, we operate at a very high level, but it comes down to that leadership. And the
Hmm.
guys that were seized, they were put into a position that they could operate to their fullest potential.
Sure. Sure.
And
Yeah.
and maybe for that role they were great, they were an A plus, but like overall they're not someone that is an absolute A plus. But ultimately, like, if they're not performing, and this is going back to what we're talking now, is ultimately, if they weren't performing, they were shit canned.
yeah,
Yeah, we had some humility to it, but at the end of the day, it's like you got to perform to what your responsibility is, and if you don't, you got to go.
yeah.
Hmm.
I just seen a quote last night. There was something along the lines of that it's not the team with the best players, but the players who make the best team.
Hmm.
Meaning like you don't need 10 A plus players. You can put some C's in there, some B's. If they play as a team and they orchestrate as a team, it's not the individual players' skills as much as them as a whole, which is like the whole theory of synergy.
Sure.
And I think that that is true. Um, and I think that, like Jeff said, like setting those ground rules from the get go and that accountability standard, it's going to scare a lot of people away. But more importantly, the people who come on board are going to understand what they're signing up for in the first place. And I mean, I tell you that Nick all the time, where he's like, we'll have a conversation like, well, I should have done this, I should have done that. And I'm like, do you ever think that just maybe they weren't cut out for it? Like it just they didn't have what it takes to execute at that level or live that lifestyle or uphold those job duties and responsibilities. And like I don't feel that a lot of people do. It takes a certain person, and I don't think that compensation or time off or benefits will offset that as strongly or as proportionately as somebody who just is that type of person and is willing to do that.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, history is full of those teams with, not a high salary cap, and they just gel, and they're collectively in aggregate are able to perform at a higher level with a huge salary cap team. So
It,
yeah,
is Steve like when is he Woo Wednesdaying on site? Like meaning is that his energy on site?
he's got a lot of energy, and we'll go to once a week. He and I will go to jobs together,
Hmm.
and the way that he interacts with everybody is completely different than the way I interact with everybody.
Is he super
You
like
know,
just super direct?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's very direct. He's talking guys up. He's loving guys up.
Hmm.
He'll get in your ass if you need to be gotten into, and
Hmm.
he'll he doesn't he wears it on his sleeve. You know what's coming, and he's super caring about everybody. He's what do you need? What do what's going on with you? And do you need to talk? There's something else going on in your life. I mean, we have with this number of people, there's always there's somebody's getting divorced, somebody's have a
Yeah.
child sick, there's somebody's parents are ill, and all of those scenarios are always going on. And so you have to be empathetic to all of that.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's high energy and he's super interactive with them, whereas I'm a little I'm more looking at the work and looking at the function, and I don't get in a huge engagement with everybody.
So I was going to ask that. So when you're on site, are you visiting? You're somehow visiting every job site once a week, once a month.
Um, yeah, I mean, I get to every job once a week. A lot of times I'll go at, between like 4 and 6 at
Mm,
night when no one's there. And that way I can just sort of, coast around at my own. A lot of our jobs are really super challenging to park. We have some really tight sites, and, pulling in the middle of the day, you might get stuck behind a lumber truck or a
yeah.
dumpster truck or something. So,
So
um,
when you're assessing quality, assessing the work, putting it into place, probably design in some form or function. But
yeah.
what's that feedback loop? Are you see something wrong? Are you firing off a text to that PM? Are you firing off to Cantor? What does that look like?
Yeah, I usually communicate with the PM.
Hmm.
So if I get on a job and I see something like, why are we tearing tile out that we just put in last week? And then, well, a designer changed to a this drain or that drain. Okay, all right,
Hmm.
that makes sense. Um, it's usually just looking for just observations.
Hmm.
Where are we? What are we working on now? And I don't really have to do a ton of quality control because they're so on it. I mean, the quality is beyond the belief. I look at some of the stuff that our guys do, and I'm amazed. At some of the stuff, some of the alignment, some of the joinery. It's incredible.
Hmm.
So rarely is it a function of quality. It's more, progress. Why are we here?
Hmm.
Checking windows, making sure I'm uh, super concerned about humidity. This time of year, it's hot. We don't have finished air conditioning yet.
Hmm.
We're using temporary AC units. We're using dehumidification. Um, are those things draining properly, or are they in a pan that has to get emptied?
Yeah.
Windows that get left open, doors that get those kinds of things. Those are sort of the observations that I'm making, Um, and I might walk through 3 jobs and have one comment about one thing, but everybody's it's pretty buttoned up. I wouldn't say that there's ever a case where I'll get to a job and be like, this is a shit show,
Mhm.
So,
So, being that you at this point have a handful of employees and you have a relatively successful company, um, do you struggle with, or how do you address maintaining a connection with those employees while still having some sort of separation where they're not going to see your life, your lifestyle, and have some sort of resentment about that? Or, hey, it's the owner of the company, I'm not going to make money for him. How do you keep that separation while also maintaining some connection to all the people with boots on the ground?
yeah, yeah, that's a good question. You know, I would say that I put in more hours than anybody,
Yeah.
so I can justify that. I don't necessarily live a lavish lifestyle. I mean, um, I like what I like, but I'm still driving a 2017 F-350 with 120,000 miles on it. So, I'm not. Uh, I don't. I don't know. That's a good question. I just try to find that balance of respect, of mutual respect. That nobody's ever called me out on it, saying, "Hey, you're doing something you don't deserve." Um, I think everybody knows I work hard. Everybody knows that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get us all there. So I'm providing opportunity for them just as much as I'm providing opportunity for myself and my family. That's how, and that's genuinely how I look at it. Like if I can give you a work environment where you can thrive, and we're doing high end work and cool places for cool people. I mean, what's better than that?
Yeah.
Just it offers so much fulfillment, that that's the motivation for guys to come to work and to be challenged, and to be in a good work environment with great people, and leave at the end of the day saying, look what I created, and look at the experience that I created for our clients. So I think that that mutual respect comes when it comes to their opinion about me and what I might have or what I might do differently as the owner of the company. But again, we're all in it together.
Yeah. I always find it interesting because you see these big companies and these big corporations, and the owner who's successful is so far removed from the boots on the ground people that oftentimes there's no resentment or hostility towards them because they don't know them, which
I don't
makes it
know.
easier.
Yeah,
It's at the management level that they have issues, and it's not with the owner of the company. But then at the same time, it's like, I think it is important to maintain some sort of relationship or support for the boots on the ground people, and being able to cultivate that type of environment that you want for your business. But I do find it makes it challenging when you are successful, and when you try and establish and maintain those relationships when you're that close to it. It is hard, and with growth, I think the separation is good and bad, but
yeah, yeah,
it's I do also believe that and reiterate that I think that when people understand you have their best interest in mind, it's not about the hours you work or how, that you're willing to put in as many hours, if not more. I feel like it's having those people's backs and them understanding that you have their best interest in mind and that you're all on the same team. That does make a huge difference.
yeah, yeah. I would say that definitely resonates. That I have everybody's back, and I feel like they have mine. And you know, I I still know everybody's name. So, sometimes that's hard,
Yeah.
like it took me a little bit to figure out, all right, who are you again? Um, but it's still small enough that we're all we're all friends, and we're all, we're seeing each other on a regular basis. Again, we're not spread out very far. So we're in, 15-mile radius or so, and the furthest job from the office is probably 15 minutes. So I can be at a lot of places and see a lot in a short period of time. But you're right. It's exciting to be able to have grown to this level, and to have the success that we've had, and the discipline that it's taken to get there is certainly rewarding for me. And it provides a livelihood for a lot of people, and it provides a business to transition to my kids.
Yeah, and that's somewhat of a segue to another question. Is you every time that we speak with you and I see what you're doing, you're highly engaged with everything that you're doing, and you have a ton of charisma, and it seems as though you enjoy everything that you're doing with the business and the growth. How long do you intend to be involved with everything? Are you one of those guys who's just I'm gonna do this till the day I die, or do you see yourself transitioning out at some point down the road, or what's that look like for you?
I can say it's a long way away.
Yeah,
I turned 60 this year, and I'm not even close to being ready to take my foot off the throttle.
I feel like you said
Um,
the same thing last time we spoke with you.
yeah, it's really gotten enjoyable. It really has. It's become more enjoyable every year, year over year, because it's more organized, and it's more profitable, and it's a little of everything.
Mm,
It just runs well, and it gets easier. So, I don't have any interest in doing anything different or going anywhere. I don't golf. I ride my bike.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm excited for the next chapter, um, with the kids, and seeing them, find their way through it. My daughter Talia she's our sole interior designer now, and she is just a rock star. I'm so proud of her. She's she's she handles herself so well with clients, and she's got such a good eye for style, and she's so organized, and she works hard. She works as hard as I do. She's the last one to leave here. Um,
How old is she?
she's 27,
And how
27,
old's
I think.
Ryan?
Ryan is 29,
Okay,
so
so
he'll
he's
be he'll
older.
be 30 in April, and Ryan is doing a little stint in timber framing
I think
right
I
now.
saw that.
A friend of
yeah.
his,
Is that
yeah.
for you?
No, it's a friend of his that they've been working on this project for, that's been in the making for a couple of years, and he had asked Ryan to, if he'd be interested in doing a little hiatus, and building this. It's a 16-car garage. It's a barn.
Wow.
Yeah, big structure up in Maine, and I'm all for it. I'm like, go out and experience
Hmm.
different things and work for different people, for sure. And they've hand cut this entire building. It's remarkable. And then
That's
and then
impressive. Yeah.
putting it together. I mean, they've been for months just cutting.
Yeah.
So then they bring in the shelter school to
Oh
to
yeah.
come in and help them with the erection phase. So they, kind of a good old fashioned barn
When you say
raising at that
hand cut,
point.
are you saying like hand saw or power saw?
Well, combination, but not like stick a piece of timber on a CNC and press a button,
Right.
like measuring and mortising, and
Yeah. So they're
and
using
not,
like a skill saw, and
yeah,
not to
yeah, they're
diminish
using,
the work that goes into that, but
right,
yeah.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Ryan's cut out for that. I think he's just like he's crazy. I mean, and I say that with like the utmost respect. Like we talked about that
Yeah.
when he was on the podcast. But where did he go to Utah before?
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
in Utah, and I remember I said to him like I was watching your stories every morning. You'd wake up and shovel 8 feet of snow so you could pull your truck out. I was like, that was your life, and he's like, I
Yeah.
know, it was great. I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, I shovel like a foot of snow, and I'm like, I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's got some crazy in him, and
Yeah,
we're kind of trying to polish that crazy into something a little more refined,
sure.
and you know, um, I hate to say that I was, very similar as a
Oh,
20
I'm
something
sure.
year old.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Um, but it's those experiences that, sort of mold you into what that next chapter is. And
Hmm.
if he stayed, just here at Sweenor Builders and only, sort of experienced working for me and this company, you sort of only learn one avenue, one way, and you don't get that diversity to bring another level to a company when you have experiences from somewhere else. And some of those experiences can be good and some of them can be bad, but they both are learning. You're learning in both cases. So
Hmm.
yeah, we've had some really good conversations as of late, and he's really starting to dial his mind into what his future looks like, and in this company. So we've had some really really good conversations.
Do you think the intent will be that Ryan and Talia take it over?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Like I said, I don't the takeover part I don't see as being anytime in the near
Sure,
future, but certainly the you know
but
the
they
the
both are interested.
the collaboration and
Yeah.
and growing it together and seeing what they can do. I mean, I'm certainly I'm certainly willing to step aside. My idea of retirement is skiing on Fridays.
Hmm.
So um,
Which
it's
is truthfully probably obtainable now.
It is. It is that this year will be the first year that we're gonna do some Fridays. So we have a house in Maine, so we'll go up
Hmm.
on Thursday night instead of Friday night, and I get more work done in Maine than I do in Rhode Island. So
Hmm.
it's easy. It's
Yeah.
really easy.
Yeah, there's something about, I mean, I feel like I love coming to my office and putting my head down to work, but every time I'm here, there's always a distraction where, verse if I'm at some random spot and I just sit down and take out my laptop, there's no one around me. It's like that's where I get a lot more of my work done.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. My quality work now is just me in my head.
Hmm.
It's just thinking and it's planning and it's amazing. I don't have as much sort of busy work to do,
Yeah.
um,
Do you like
other
that?
than
Like, do you oftentimes miss having the tool belt on, or?
uh no, I mean, I like being busy.
Hmm.
So sometimes I struggle with that a little bit as sort of. I know I've read a whole bunch of books. I try to read a book a month, and
Hmm.
I read my favorite topic is like leadership.
Yeah.
So I try to learn what sort of the CEO mind should be, and and a lot of it is just earmarking some time to just plan and just think. And sometimes it's hard for me to like not be doing something that to
Yeah.
me feels unproductive, but at the same time I recognize that it is productive. And so like our drive to Maine is 4 hours each way, and I'm I can listen to silence the whole time, and then I could build a business in my head,
Hmm.
up and back, and um, that's a real good quality time for me to think when I'm driving.
What about extracurricular activity in terms of other businesses? I know you were doing specs before. I don't know if you're still doing it. Obviously Sawdust is a marketing thing, but things like, this old house and anything else that outside of your core, which is Sweenor Builders.
Yeah. So I have a big sign on my on my wall over here. It says "No distractions," and so um, you know, I I can get distracted,
Hmm.
and I have gotten distracted with different things. But I'm trying to keep the core business to the core business and really really zero in on that. Um, but with that being said, I do have other interests. I have we have some commercial property that we've acquired over the years. Our building where our offices are is one of them, and so we have some property, and then I'm building three um, self storage facilities right now. So we just opened one. It's 100,000 square feet, climate controlled. So we have one in North Kingstown, and then one in Wallingford, Connecticut, and then another one coming up in Westerly. So that's sort of my hobby, so to speak, and my sort of long term retirement
Hmm.
Where'd you get
fund.
that sign from? I'm gonna get Nick one.
I knew, when yeah, yeah.
It's called Microsoft Word, right? And you just make the font as big as you can that it'll fit on a landscape, and you just print it and
Doug, you
stick
hear
it
this? Doug, that's your job.
on.
Um, all right. So my last question for you is: you said that you are creating these 3-year plans in your Builders 20 group for where you want the business to be. Can you give us any insight as to what's on the 3-year horizon?
Well, we touched on it a little bit. You touched on it a little bit in the beginning, and that is the cabinet shop and the cabinetry piece. Does it? What kind of margins are they? What are they? How do they compare to the building business? So that's a huge opportunity for us to really explore this year and see what that looks like. Because ultimately, I would like to be able to say that we build everything in your house. Every cabinet, every vanity, every built-in comes, from our company, from our shop, from our people. And if that is the case, we will need a bigger facility. So that's sort of one area of growth opportunity that needs to be vetted out, but it's certainly that's certainly one that I'm challenged and excited about. Um, the other one is we have masonry in house, and that has we do so much masonry between veneer work and fireplaces and then hardscapes and all this outdoor area stuff. And certainly that's an area for growth for us.
To bring that labor in house.
Yeah, we have it now. We probably have six masons right now, but we still have to use, three or four masonry subs to
Mm,
supplement that.
That's
So
interesting. It's
that's a
like
lot.
yeah,
not one of the trades that I would think, yeah, let's bring this in house. But if you're doing that much of it,
I feel like
it
it's always
probably,
carpentry then paint.
yeah, I feel like masonry does make sense if you're doing that much of it.
Yeah.
I also think it's very hard to find good, competent masons. I feel they're few and far between, and then the ones who are good are always busy.
yeah, and the way we dove into that was acquired a company.
Mm,
So that's one way to do it is to find a sub that you like and make them an offer they can't refuse, and then build upon it. So I look at, you use the word find, and I use the word train.
Hmm.
So I'm as focused on finding as I am growing from the bottom up, at the high school level. And if you do that for, 5 years in a row, in 5 years, you've got a 5 year veteran that's been in your company that's
Yeah.
doing what you do every single day. They're ready to make hay.
That's true.
So,
So,
if you keep that pipeline and you have some vision, next year will be our 35th year. If I said that at year 5 and then year 10, I mean, all of a sudden you got 35-year employees.
yeah.
So, you got to
So
think of it that way.
on that really quick, in terms of, you talk about rather than find, you want to train, but you earlier you talked about there would be a world where you could plug in a couple more project managers. Is that, are you looking to bring on people that are eager to be in project management, or people that have experience in project management?
I think that we've found it's a combination. Growing from within, internal people is certainly a good way. But the thing about project managers is that they don't have to have tremendous carpentry experience.
Hmm.
They need to be good at project management.
Hmm.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that they needed 20 years of experience running crews or 20 years experience running uh, site or whatever. It means that they need 20 years of experience of running a project, and it could be any project. It doesn't have to be construction related. The core of project management has little to do with construction. So I didn't really answer the question, but
No, I mean, I think you did. I think that what you're getting at is that, whether or not they have carpentry experience isn't important. And ultimately, they do need to either have experience managing a project, or they need to show a strong skill set and the ability to do that.
yeah. I mean, oftentimes we see good project management qualities in our clients.
Hmm.
We have one client. We have clients that there's always a dominant, project manager of the client, right? The husband or the wife, and oftentimes they present themselves as very well organized and
Hmm.
that they could run a project.
Hmm. I feel like I've had a
Oftentimes
lot.
it's the wife for me.
I was gonna say, oftentimes I feel like our clients think that they can run a project, but they are unable to. Jeff, I appreciate.
I think I have like two male clients that want to run the projects. One's an engineer and one's an attorney. Other than that, it's like
Ye
all the women.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Jeff, I know you talked about Sawdust in the beginning, but I want to give you another opportunity to just kind of promote it on here. When do you guys launch? You said this fall, right?
We're going to launch this fall. I would say inside of a month you're going to see that.
And
Um,
what's that going to be on? That's going to be on YouTube, weekly, monthly.
It'll be on YouTube. Our cadence right now is sort of like one a month, but that doesn't mean we may bottle a few up and
Sure.
then release them weekly.
Cool.
I don't really know what that exactly looks like, but
Sure.
it'll be, we anticipate doing like 12 of them for say the season, whatever that is.
And will those be, kind of, hey, this is how we do X, or will
Yeah.
this be, hey, follow along a project from end to end?
A little of each, like when you really start doing it, we've started following certain projects from start to finish. So
Hmm.
you'll see some projects from start to finish, but a lot of it is, hey, what's going on at this job that's super cool. And
Yeah.
the first episode is this enormous tent that we built around this house in
Hmm.
order to replace a 2,000 square foot flat roof that's
Hmm.
over living space. And um,
That's cool.
so we do so many cool things that it's just sort of little snippets of those cool projects, and really trying to show off the craftsmanship and the cool things that we do and the cool people that do them.
Love that. Well, craftsmanship's the name of the game. And with that being said, Jeff, Tyler and I have been talking, and it's been brought to our attention that you are a well-liked guest, and we want to have you back on a regular cadence. So we'll figure that out
Yeah,
offline,
yeah,
and that way we can keep these conversations going. You certainly are what we stand for here at Modern Craftsman.
nice to hear it.
Well, if you guys want to see Jeff's YouTube channel, head on over to YouTube, type in Sweenor Builder Sawdust. You should be able to catch that up, and make sure you give him some feedback on all the videos. I know you had one video last time that I think was a deck drainage that went like viral on you.
Yeah, yeah,
I remember talking to you
couple
about
hundred
that.
thousand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So well produced and a lot of good information, and I think you guys would appreciate it. Cool, man.
Thanks, Jeff. We
all right.
appreciate it. Appreciate your time as
Yeah,
always.
sure.
I don't want
Same
to. I don't
here.
want to cut into your riding.
No,
Are you going riding now?
no,
Do you
No,
ride
no.
in the morning?
I'm just busting
I
his
ride in the morning.
balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's dark, I have to. We're using headlights, and
It's only going to
dark.
get worse.
I know it. Then I'll be inside for 4 or 5 months
Do you ride a
on the
Peloton, or
trainer.
do you put your bike on one of those
No, I put my bike
stands?
on a trainer, and
Yeah.
there's an app called Zwift where you can virtually ride against people all over the world.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty cool.
Lance Armstrong's just casually on that
Yeah,
app.
yeah,
No
Me
big
and Lance
deal.
go way back. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, we'll talk to you soon, and
All
good
right.
luck with everything.
All right. See you guys.
Jeff Sweenor, everybody.
He's the man. Dude, I can't believe he's got 75 guys.
That's insane.
That is so many.
The whole time I'm like, oh, my
I'm
head
doing the
would
math. I'm like,
explode.
what's the revenue? I was gonna ask what the revenue was, but I was like, you know what? We're getting into some details here, so we'll save that for a future episode. But a bunch of you guys reached out and said, hey, you should have Jeff on more. So there you go, episode 2 with Jeff, and we're gonna make it a effort to have him on more before we do another 200 episodes, 230 episodes.
I can't believe it was that long ago. But then
I can't believe we've done 280 episodes.
that also, but I guess we did have Steve on from there, and we had Ryan on from there, which is maybe why I
Bridging
felt
the
that
gap.
it was not that long ago.
Okay.
But like if you would have had me guess, I would have been like, yeah, it was last year for
Yeah.
sure. Like definitely last year, but
Well,
not 200 episodes ago.
no. All right.
Long time.
Oh, you guys missed out on the t-shirt. If you didn't order one, you missed out. We shipped over like 200 t-shirts, which is amazing. So thank you for everyone that ordered one.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have some pretty badass USA made number 2 yellow pencils that are branded. They are in production right now, and super stoked to see those things made, because not only are the pencils made in the US, but also the box is made in the US. All of the branding done by our friends over at Slash. So we're going to have those pencils up on the site soon for pre-order. So make sure you stay in tuned for that. We also have another product being developed. I think we just gave approval on the color of it. And that's going to go into production. We'll announce that soon. And DM us. Let us know if you still want a shirt. Maybe we'll do another run. Maybe a new design, TBD. And as always, make sure you head over to iTunes. If you feel as though our podcast has done anything for you, we would greatly appreciate you just hopping on there, leaving a review. It helps us continue to grow. And make sure you share this podcast with anyone that you think it would benefit.
Yeah, and guys, if you're waiting on your shirt, don't worry. I'm still waiting on mine too. Nick.
Yours are sitting right there.
Nick's like, yeah, I sent you. Did you send me shirts? You said you did.
I did. I sent you one of the first order.
I think I lost mail that day because there was a handful of people that sent me stuff that they were like, yeah, we sent. I'm pretty sure that somebody got an order from Home Depot, an order from Great Stuff, and my T-shirt.
Amazing.
And they're
well,
just rocking a Modern Craftsman shirt
yeah.
with a joist hanger and some
Well,
spray
you know what?
foam
If
right
you
now.
ever see someone wearing a shirt that says just Craftsman without the modern on it, that's yours.
Yeah.
Because it would like, and guys, that I have a few extra. So maybe we'll do a special like giveaway. That's a we decided not to run that shirt. So there's only like 10 in existence.
That's going to be worth a lot of money someday.
I mean, at least 250 grand.
Easy.
At least.
Easy.
Yeah.
Maybe I could win that giveaway.
Maybe. Appreciate you guys. See you next week.
Thank you.